Good evening and welcome to the October 15th, 2014 Town Board meeting. And I'll officially call the meeting to order. I'll ask that you please rise for the pledge. And tonight I'm going to ask our librarian, Bunny Brinkman, to please lead us in the pledge tonight. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you, Bunny. I'll ask our clerk to please call the roll.
Cole?
Here.
LaFountain?
Here.
Metzler?
Here.
Moore?
Here.
Quinn?
Here. Thank you. We'll start off with communications and announcements, and I'm going to recognize Councilwoman Linda Cole, and I'm also going to call on our librarian, Bernadette Bunny Brinkman, if they would come to the podium, please.
I feel like we did this earlier this year, right? It was
Yes, we did, as a matter
Library
of fact,
Month.
for National Library Month.
Library Month. But now, this is for Friends of the Library Week. And so I'd like to read this proclamation to our librarian. And whereas the Friends of the Penfield Public Library raise money that enables to move from good to great, providing resources to our additional programming, much-needed equipment, support for children's summer reading, and special events throughout the year. The work of the Friends highlights on an ongoing basis the fact that our library is the cornerstone of the community. The Friends understand the critical importance of the well-funded libraries and advocate to ensure the library gets the resources it needs. The Friends' gift of their time and their commitment to the library sets an example for how the volunteerism leads to positive engagement and betterment of our community. Therefore, be it resolved that R. Anthony LaFountain, Supervisor, proclaims October 19th through the 25th of 2014 as Friends of the Library Week in Penfield, and urges everyone to join the Friends of the Library and thank them for all they do to make our library and community so much better. And this is dated October 15th and signed by Town Supervisor R. Anthony LaFountain. And Mary Maley is the president of the Friends of the Library. She couldn't be here tonight.
She could not be here tonight.
But you, as our awesome library director, is here tonight, so I shall give this to you. Do you have anything to say? I know we have a number of how much money was raised from the
Yes, we
library
do.
book sale.
Yes, we do.
Maybe you'd like to mention that.
I can mention that. This year, thanks to the efforts of our friends, $28,000 was raised that will go toward paying for all the programming that we offer our residents at the library, as well as some initiatives. This helps us put in some new technology that everyone in the community can enjoy, so we so appreciate the hard work that the Friends do to make this possible for everybody.
Excellent.
Thank you.
And Bunny, if you would
Thank you.
just stay there for a moment, and
Yes.
I'd like to recognize our clerk who has a note that she received today that she would like to make part of the record as well.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Supervisor. As mentioned, Mary Maley, President of the Friends of the Penfield Library, unfortunately could not be here, and so she sent me an email and wanted me to read this. I would like to thank the Town Board for bestowing this honor on the Friends of Penfield Library. The volunteers work hard all year to present our wonderful book sale, sorting donations into 50 categories to make shopping as easy as possible for our customers. I heard many compliments during the sale. The Penfield has the best book sale in the area. I can't think of a more win-win event than this sale. People donate to the sale, lots of people come and buy books and media from the sale, and when they're done with them, they donate these same items back to sell again next year. Many of these people help make the sale possible by volunteering their time and talent. Finally, and most importantly, our beloved Penfield Library gets to use the proceeds so that it can be the best library in the area, using the funds to provide wonderful programs and services for everyone to enjoy. And the sale is a lot of fun, too. It brings friends and neighbors together from the Penfield community, all for the good cause. We made $1,200 more than last year. always a plus, totaling about, and she said $30,000 to contribute to the library. This is an opportunity to thank everyone for all the ways that they contributed to our success. I especially want to thank the town of Penfield for the support they give us for our storage container and the help they provide loading leftovers onto the truck at the end of the sale.
Thank you very
I
much.
must say, there's one other thing the Friends of the Library has started at the library that's new, that's kind of exciting, the book sale that never ends. Would you like
Yeah.
to mention that?
Yes. In order to make books available all year long, we have requests for that all the time. The Friends decided to start this year an opportunity for people to come in and acquire materials that would, similar to the ones that would be sold in the book sale, for a free will donation, suggested donation of $1 for hardcovers and 50 cents for paperback books. And it's already a big success. We've seen a lot of people browsing and buying from that, so.
Great.
So, the
Excellent.
library can buy books as well as borrow.
Yes.
All right. Excellent. Bonnie, thank you for
Thank you.
coming in tonight. Thank you for
you.
everything that you do, and congratulations to the Friends on another very successful book sale.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. We'll continue on with our communications and announcements, and I'll recognize our clerk, please.
Thank you. As a reminder, if you're using the installment option for your tax payments, your second and third installments must be made payable to Monroe County Treasury and mailed to Post Office Box 14420, Rochester, New York 14614. Or you may pay in person at 39 West Main Street, Room B2. Please contact the tax office by dialing 340-8625 with any questions. And my last announcement is that the general election will be held on Tuesday, November 4th. Voting hours are from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Those who vote in election district number 10 and whose polling site has been at Grand V Senior Living Facility will now vote at the Penfield Fire Hall Station Number 1 at 1838 Penfield Road. If you have not received your postcard alerting you to this change, please call the town clerk's office at 340-8629 or contact the Board of Elections at 753-1550. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Quinn.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Good evening, everyone. Just a quick reminder, we don't have another legislative session before the end of the month, and as we head into the end of October, Halloween is Friday, October 31st, so please be safe and use caution when out trick-or-treating. And also later that weekend, on Saturday night into Sunday morning, November 2nd, is daylight savings time. It ends, so as you change your clocks back an hour, please be mindful to also check your smoke detectors. Thank you very much.
Mrs. Messler.
I just have one announcement this evening for an annual event that's very popular here in Penfield. The town of Penfield's annual Historic Ghost Walk will be held on Friday, October 17th from 6 to 8 p.m. This year's theme will explore the history of spiritualism in Rochester. Tour through Oakwood Cemetery to meet some of Penfield's past residents. They will share their experiences of what was a new religious movement that became extremely popular after the Civil War. Tours will begin at the Community Center on Baird Road. It will be very dark, so please bring a flashlight. It is recommended to purchase tickets in advance to make sure that you can participate. It's very popular, so reservations can be made ahead of time by calling the Recreation Department at 340-8655, option 6, to reserve with a credit card. Tickets are $5. Again, that's October 17th from 6 to 8 p.m.
You know, if I might, that's, I'm one of the guides, I tend to do that, I'd be a guide for the Ghost Walk, and the rain date is the next night, the 18th. We're a little concerned, it's supposed to be raining on Friday night, but, hopefully it won't, and everything will go as planned, but the other date is the 18th.
Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. A couple of items. The Town of Penfield Town Board will be hosting a neighborhood information meeting regarding Baker Commodities odors on Monday, November 17th at 7 p.m. right here in the auditorium. There will be representatives from DEC, Baker Commodities, and the Monroe County Health Department that will be part of that session. Again, that's the 17th at 7 p.m. The next Energy and Environmental Advisory Committee's environmental discussion series will be next Monday, the 20th. The series topic will be 10 things, practical steps for lower carbon living. Whether you want to save the planet or just save some money, there are practical things that you can do to reduce the carbon footprint. Environmental engineer Sinette Cavalier will share 10 items, simple items that can help reduce emissions, energy use, and waste. This is sponsored by the Energy and Environmental Advisory Committee. Again, the session will be here on the 20th at 6:30 p.m. On November 11th, Tuesday, November 11th, the Town Hall and Town offices will be closed in observance of Veterans Day. Mr. Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. The Penfield Players announces its production of Gore Vidal's The Best Man. The production will run from Saturday, November 1st until November 15th. Directed by David C. Woodworth, Vidal's play tells a story of two politicians vying for their party's nomination for President of the United States. Show and date times are as follows: November 1st, 7th, 8th, 14th, and 15th at 8 p.m., and November 2nd at 2 p.m. All performances will be held at the Penfield Community Center on Baird Road. To order tickets, please call 340-8655 or go to penfieldrec.org. Also on Friday, October 17th, this coming Friday, please join Penfield Recreation for their annual family-friendly Halloween celebration. From 6 to 8 p.m. at the Community Center, your family can enjoy trick-or-treats, games, crafts, music, and more. This party is free for all. Parents, please bring your camera. New this year will be a photo room set up for Halloween-type photos with spooky backgrounds, fun family photos that you can do with everybody. Woody Acres will have a haze maze set up for the little ones. There will be a pizza dinner available for $5 per person beginning at 5:30 p.m. Dinner will include a small pizza, salad, chips, and a beverage. To purchase tickets in advance, please call Penfield Recreation at 340-8655 or come to the Community Center at 1985 Baird Road. Tickets will also be available at the door. It is a great time. I've been there many times with my children. I know other town board members have. It's always well attended, and it's just a great night with the kids. Thank you.
Okay, I have a couple of announcements. Penfield Rotary is holding our annual Fall Euchre Tournament, Sunday, November 2nd. Check-in is at 1:30, start time is 2 p.m. The tournament will be held in Legacy, 40 Willow Pond Way. Tickets are $20 per person before October 31st, or $25 the day of the event. Admission includes water, coffee, snacks. Prizes will be awarded to the top 10 players on scores from 8 tables. All proceeds will benefit Camp Hakamo. For more information, please visit www.penfieldrotary.org. And my other announcements, my next community chat that I have once a month is Tuesday, October 21st, next Tuesday, 5:30 to 7 in the new book area at the Penfield Library, if anyone wants to stop by and discuss any issues. And I also just want to mention, we had our bike drop. It was on October 4th, and it was another success. It was another kind of a rainy day, but people came out, the very generous community, and we had 202. We received 202 bikes, which went to our community bikes. So we've reached over 1,000, a little over 1,000 bikes in the 4 years we've been doing this. And this is in relation to Penfield Rotary with the town of Penfield. And we'll be doing it again next year, same time, same place. So if you have any bikes out there and you didn't bring them because you didn't hear about it, please remember us for next fall. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Horowitz.
No announcements tonight, Mr. Supervisor.
Okay, thank you. Move on to public participation. There are 3 ways to communicate with the board. If you're here in the audience and you sign up, you can come up and address the board. You can call in at 340-8771, or you can log on at penfield.org. And if you didn't sign up in advance, you have an opportunity to be recognized and come up. So with that, is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the board on any matter? Mr. Reed, Bob Reed.
I didn't see any sign-up papers, so I didn't sign up. But Bob Reed, 275 Parkview Drive.
We get you either way. Sign up or
Wonderful.
or not.
I appreciate it. I'm here about the issue of odors from the Baker Commodities rendering plant on Browncroft Boulevard over the last 9 years. I wanted to report that over the last month, we've had a marked diminution of the problem. I think we've had 4 complaints in the last month, and I don't have the spreadsheet in front of me, but and that's probably better than the 60 that we had the previous month or so. It still would be running at an annual rate of close to 50, which we don't think is acceptable, but it's a step forward, and so there's some reason to hope. However, we have absolutely no idea what's led to this change. We've been totally in the dark. We know things have changed, but no one's told us why. We still have no idea of why the odors came back in 2005. So we're confused, and we know that you've arranged a meeting with the DEC and Baker and the Monroe County Department of Health, and hopefully there'll be some answers. Because if this is a cure that we're seeing and not just a remission, you know, we want to look to the future and look to ways to keep it from recurring. And I think we all need more information about what's changed, what changed in 2005, what caused it to radically worsen in the last 3 years, and what's changed in the last month to make it remarkably different. A lot of us have been going out in the early morning trying to smell it, not to be vindictive or harsh, but just so that we could satisfy ourselves we weren't overlooking anything, and we're just not getting it. And so that's a good thing. But do I understand correctly from a resident who was at the meeting a couple of weeks ago when I was unable to attend, that there won't be any advance information about the DEC's findings or SCP, the outside company that Baker hired to take a look at their process, before the meeting in November?
I don't recall that being said, Bob.
Okay.
I think that Bill Schmieder and Baker has indicated that as soon as the report comes in, we'll have a copy of the report. The last that I know, and this is based on a note that came in late last week that essentially said that they expect the report by the end of this week. So the end of this week is either tomorrow or Friday. And Bill indicated in his note to myself and Tom Marriott that as soon as he got it, he would ship it to us electronically, that then could be put up on our website under Baker as to what that report has to offer. So as soon as we see and get it, that will be up on the website. As it relates to the DEC, they have been copied in on everybody's notes on the distribution that all of us have been using for the last couple of months. And I can't tell you what, if anything, more we're going to see from the DEC.
Why not? You've asked them.
We have.
And what have they said to you?
They gave us that letter that was dated, if I recall correctly, I don't have it right here in front of me, but I
Right.
think it was dated August 6th, if my memory serves me correct, and we got it sometime the end of August, early September. And I'm not aware of anything additional that's coming. And I did indicate to the DEC that certainly there were a lot of questions about that. And there are going to be questions that will be asked as part of that session on the 17th of November.
But you did ask them to give us advance information.
We shared the fact that, that both this board, Bob, both this board and the neighbors didn't find their August 6th letter acceptable.
Okay.
So.
But you've been back to the well trying to get them to.
We have been back to the well.
Okay, because they have, as you know from one of the, probably the letter you're referring to, they have found Baker to be in compliance with its DEC permit, and we're all rather curious how they did this.
Right.
What was the mechanism of it?
Yep.
Were there measurements? I did find a very disconcerting reference to the case of Tonawanda Coke, an industrial fuel plant over near Buffalo, where the DEC for a long time was unable to detect huge leakages of benzene into surrounding neighborhoods. And there was a quote from Mr. Martins, the head of the DEC, that they didn't have the technology to detect these leaks. which sounded to me like they don't have the technology to detect what the emissions of the plant are. I don't know if that's actually the case or not, but it's very troubling. So we wonder if they measured emissions. We wonder if they considered the fact that Baker is not supposed to unreasonably interfere, whatever that means, with not to interfere with the reasonable enjoyment of life and property. They certainly have done that with over 300 complaints in just a few years. So it's unfortunate for us to go into that meeting in November without as much advance information as possible, because we want to be intelligent listeners and intelligent questioners. And we'd appreciate it if you would, get out the hammer and tongs and call Mr. D'Amato and
We'll continue
see
to
if
ask
he
for
can-
that, Bob. I can't,
Right.
put the gun to his head and force him to write anything. I mean, the other alternative is we could, as we get closer, if we don't have anything, we could cancel the meeting and reschedule it if that's an option.
Okay, thank you. To get back to the petition that we presented in July, that seemed to start this constructive process of the odors diminishing, we are very happy about that fact, but most of the petition items have not seen any action by the board, and we've talked about some of the reasons in the past. You feel it would be too expensive, or it wouldn't be appropriate for this body to do certain things like that. But I would like to just put some of these items in a different light, okay? And I want to ask you some questions, and you can answer or be silent and try to think of yourselves as citizens rather than board members. They're not trick questions, but you might perceive them as trick questions. Should a company operate in violation of its pre-existing non-conforming use permit, a local permit? I would think that your answer would have to be no.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Almost certainly Baker is in violation of his permit. And if you say to me that...
Based on what?
Well, I'm just going to say, if you say, Bob, do you have any information?
Yeah, I
have
mean,
any facts? Well, it's because we're not able to collect facts. But we do know that after Baker acquired the company, it changed from being a local mom and pop to a regional operation. And if we don't have the facts, it's because nobody who has the power to gather those facts has gathered them. But I would say with a high degree of certainty that it almost certainly is in violation. It's something, in any case, that needs to be looked at.
And Mr. Supervisor, if I can, Mr. Reed, to point out exactly what you're saying, in the letter that the town board sent on dated July 24th, 2014, we asked that specific question of the DEC. In fact, it's the first question we asked the DEC. Is Baker Commodities fully compliant with its current New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, not the town of Penfield, but the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation permit? And we got the letter, as the supervisor referred to, dated August 6th, that gives an answer, but it doesn't give an answer. And I'm sure you know the letter that I'm referring to, because we've talked about it many times. And so we all together, you and other residents in this town board, publicly expressed our displeasure of that letter, or of the response that the state DEC gave us. And that's really one of the main reasons why this board's requested a meeting with the DEC to address their responses in this letter dated August 6th, because we're not happy with the responses we received. They're not satisfactory to me. I know they're not satisfactory to other members in this board, and they're obviously not satisfactory to a lot of residents. So we're all on the same page with their response to our letter. We've got 3 other questions that talk about, have any violations occurred? What about noxious odors and chemicals admitted and so forth? And so, to your earlier question, your earlier statement, I think that one of the reasons for the meeting, the neighborhood meeting with the DEC and the Monroe County Health Department, is to get a better understanding to where they came up with their answers to our questions, because it's the answers that I have, that you have, that are posted on the town website are not satisfactory to me. So we're on the same page as far as that goes.
Yes, but I was speaking in this instance of the local Penfield pre-existing non-conforming use permit, not the New York State DEC permit, which we just talked about a few moments ago.
Right.
But when Baker got its non-conforming use permit, when they took over the plant, they were restrained from, they were not allowed to expand the size and scope of the operation. That's what I think has happened. In addition to whatever else they're doing, the pollution with the odors, and with disturbing people's reasonable enjoyment of their life and property, we think that the operation has grown hugely.
And I think that's a very justifiable question
But that's
to ask
something
them at the public or at the meeting.
But I think that's
Absolutely.
something that the town has to explore, since it's a town permit. Baker's, I don't know what they would say. They could say anything, but it's a town permit that may be in violation. And it could be remedied. We're not saying they have to be shut down.
Right.
Okay? We're
Right.
saying that it needs to be looked at and say, look, you've really grown. You're really beyond your permit. You need a new permit, or you need approval through the town zoning board of appeals, which would be the way to go. That would bring the process out in the open. Would also be an opportunity, I think, to try to put some safeguards into place for residents. If the operation grows, there are going to be more odors.
Yep.
So that was the issue there. Should a company with a long history of pollution of adjoining neighborhoods not be subject to fines or sanctions for egregious odors? Should they be able to walk away each time without any consequences? And I think you probably all should say, no, they shouldn't get off scot-free. There should be consequences for egregious problems, or when they perhaps violate their own operations manual, put profit ahead of odor control. And I think the objection that was raised, perhaps by Ms. Metzler, was that the town doesn't have a mechanism or people trained to really go down and inspect. But I think the idea is correct. There should be sanctions, there should be fines, there should be penalties. Maybe that's the domain of the DEC. But these are all petition items phrased as questions. Third one, do you feel that you would want to know what chemicals a factory was sending into your neighborhood, whether you could smell them or not? Because we believe as many as 110 chemicals are in rendering plant effluent. 26 of them create malodors. That leaves about 84, hope my math is right, that may not smell at all. But 84 chemicals is quite a cocktail. And Baker Commodities is adding chlorine dioxide to that and stirring it all up with the scrubbers down there. So we may not be smelling it, but we'd like to know what we're breathing. And that's why, even if the odors go away, we feel there's this need for testing. That could be done through a local university. It's been suggested RIT or the U of R. It could be done by the state, presumably, but it really needs to be done. And I think you'd want that for your children, for your aging parents with asthma or COPD, for yourself. We know that the air we breathe anywhere on this planet now is hardly pure, but there are different levels of contamination, and 110 chemicals is a lot of chemicals to be a half a mile or 2 miles away, upwind from you. If a company has failed for 9 years to stem pollution of adjoining neighborhoods, and the company, town, and state have no answers, do you think an outside neutral evaluation of the plant would be called for? I would hope your answer would be yes. That's another petition point. We don't consider the DEC to be outside or neutral. Now, the town may not be able to do these things. I understand your concerns about cost and appropriateness and level of expertise. But the town, I think, and a lot of us have been talking about it, ought to be leading in the effort to get these things done, all of these things done, for our neighborhood and other adjoining neighborhoods that are really not part of our email chain or part of our reporting chain. We're not the only people that live in close proximity to the plant. I've talked to people who live in the Landing Heights apartments on the other side. Excuse me. I need the key before you go.
We'll get you home.
I'm almost done. But they've had problems with odors there. Landing Heights Apartments on the west side of Arundequoit Creek, right at the top of the hill. They all think they're smelling the Brighton sanitary landfill because the driveway to the landfill is right beside the apartment houses, and they see the trucks going in and out. But you know what goes to the sanitary landfill. It's not garbage. It's branches, trees, leaves. They get composted there. And that can create odors, but it's more along the nature of compost and not the rendering odor. So we know there are more people affected, okay? So these things need to be accomplished, not just for our neighborhood, but for other people who may not even be aware of what they're experiencing or where it's really coming from. And we'd like to see vigorous leadership to get all of these petition items accomplished one way or another, by hook or by crook. And that's really the definition of leadership, I think, is people doing the difficult for the people that they represent. The last item I just wanted to quickly touch on was the use of the neighborhood email chain. It's not a good way to touch everybody in the neighborhood, even supplemented by using the names of the people who signed the petition but who are not on the email chain. There are a lot of people that we don't reach in our neighborhood with that email chain. Important communications should be going through the mail. I know that's an expense, but you need to reach out and probably try to send important communications to the surrounding neighborhoods as well as ours. That would be the best way to communicate with everybody. That's all I have for tonight.
Okay. Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
If they're gone and you don't have a key, Bob, we'll be done in about 45 minutes. We'll be more than happy to give you a ride home.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. That's not your book that's at the dais?
No.
Okay, got it. Oh, it's not a book. It's a light. Got it. Just want to make sure you're not going away with without something. All right. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to address the board on any matter? Yes, Mr. Dr. Quattro, County Legislator, representing the 15th LD that covers a portion of Penfield and Webster. Welcome.
Good evening. Thank you very much, and it's a pleasure to be here. I notice on your agenda this evening that you are going to be passing the final budgets for the fiscal year 2015. As a member of the county legislature, we're at the beginning of our process. In fact, we begin our budget hearings next month, but certainly have been involved in budget discussions as a caucus now for some time. And I just wanted to take the time to come down here and congratulate you on a number of fronts. I know from working firsthand, obviously, with this town, what a pleasure it has been to work with you folks at the county level to really protect the taxpayers of this community in the fine town of Penfield. So I want to congratulate you on working so collaboratively with us and with other governments and entities in the county, including MCC, to help manage costs. It's a difficult business, as well you know, particularly in this overregulated and overmandated environment in this state. To manage costs, and you guys have been awfully creative. You've thought outside the box, and you've worked very well with us, and it's always been a pleasure, and I'd like to thank you for that personally. And I also know from working with the department heads at the county level that without their support and cooperation in making oftentimes very difficult decisions on one hand, and then being creative on the other, that without them doing those things, that it wouldn't be possible to pass a budget as nice as this one, as kind as this one is to the taxpayers, and one that protects the quality of life here in Penfield. And I think that, you know, as a businessman here in Penfield and a resident of Penfield, I would be interested in cutting to the chase with regards to the analysis of this budget. They can be complex things to analyze, so relying on nonpartisan or non-biased, if you will, agencies to comment on this budget and the performance of this town, I think more generally, it's kind of difficult to look at the performance of a town or judge the performance of the supervisor or the board or the county legislature or the county executive, for that matter, in the snapshot of the budget or even quarterly reports, but to look at the performance of the elected officials over a longer time span. And I think that we have a couple of examples that we can look at. First of all, where you guys rank as far as other towns in this community. I think that you have the 4th lowest tax rate in all of Monroe County, and that includes a town like Henrietta that has a tremendous amount of sales tax revenue and is in fact cutting their tax rate this year. So you guys are to be congratulated for that. But particularly what I want to congratulate you for is your credit rating. It's something that we read about in the paper. It's something that the county is often unfairly criticized for because we don't have a tolerance to increasing taxes. But you guys have done exactly the opposite. You've maintained your tax rate. I think it's lower than it was in 2002 or something like that. That's quite frankly incredible in this environment. But your AA2 rating is, I think, a testimony to the way this town has been run, not just by our current Supervisor LaFountain and this town board, but other ones. That really is the nuts and bolts. That's the analysis, I think, that removes all the partisan rhetoric, particularly during this election season where we see some negative campaigning. These are people that analyze your budget from a non-biased way. And this is the credit rating that protects the taxpayers as well, because when you guys go out to bond, you can get a lower rate. So it's so refreshing to see such a job well done. And I couldn't let tonight pass without coming down to congratulate you for your job and to thank you as a businessman and a resident of Penfield and as a county legislator. It's nice to see this kind of effort be rewarded in such concrete ways. So thank you very much.
Thank you. We appreciate it, and good luck over the next several weeks as you embark on the 2015 budget yourself.
You've been there. You understand the process. And
I do.
Thank you for your well wishes.
All right. Thanks. Thanks for the time, Dan. Dan Quattro, County Legislator, 15th LD, representing Penfield and Webster. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to address the board on any item or any matter? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to additions and deletions. Are there any additions or deletions to the board? Seeing none, we have the September 17th, 2014 minutes before us. I would entertain a motion of approval for those minutes.
I'd like to move that the minutes of September 17th be approved.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion on those minutes? Seeing none, I'd ask for a roll call vote, please.
Cole?
Aye.
LaFountain?
Aye.
Metzler?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye.
Quinn?
Aye.
5 ayes.
Petitions, has the town clerk, board, or town attorney received any petitions since our last get-together? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to resolution by function, and we'll start with law and finance, please.
Adoption of final budgets for fiscal year 2015 for the town of Penfield.
Moved.
Second.
Whereas the town board of the town of Penfield, having on the first day of October 2014, commencing at 7:30 p.m., duly held a public hearing on the preliminary budgets for fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2015. Whereas all requirements of Article 102 through 109 of the New York State Town Law for preparation and adoption of budgets have been met. Whereas all requirements of Article 15 of the New York State Town Law for preparation and adoption of special district budgets have been met. Whereas in addition to the above legal requirements, a presentation of the 2015 tentative budget was made to the town board legislative body on September 3rd, and whereas all persons desiring to be heard in the matter of budgets for the town of Penfield for fiscal year 2015 have fully been heard.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Moore. Is there discussion? This is probably one of the biggest items that this board undertakes during the course of any given year, and that's the establishment and adoption of our budget. And I would ask the board any questions or comments.
Just, if I can, Mr. Supervisor, just a couple comments and a couple things that I just would like to point out. Just a clarification, if I can, and maybe Mr. Beeden's the better person to answer this question. Back at our public hearing, I asked about 15 or 16 different questions, and one was about state aid. And was the state aid decreased, not including the CHIPS funding that we get for our, consolidated highway program, but other than the CHIPS funding, was our state aid decreased this year?
Mr. Beeden, I'm gonna have you come right up to the microphone. We want to see your smiling face on the camera, and plus we get an opportunity to give you a little bit of recognition for your effort on the budget.
I'm Bob Beeden, Town Controller for the Town of Penfield. No, there was not sufficient amount of state aid reduced. We
Okay.
had the same amount of per capita aid in the budget that we received this year.
All right, and so the state aid for the consolidated highway program, the program that our town public works department uses to repair and fix our roads, that was increased by a small amount, wasn't it?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you, Mr. Beeden.
bet.
Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to thank you for your,
Why don't you sit right here, Mr. Beeden, in case we have any other questions? We're not going to let you get away that easy. Sorry.
for your advocacy for that increased aid. I know that the town highway director goes to Albany every year and meets with state representatives, both in the Assembly and in the state Senate. And I know that you are actively, have active dialogue with our state elected officials in pursuing additional funding for that program. So we appreciate you doing that and your commitment to trying to secure as much funding as we can. I don't want to go through the questions again, but there's just a couple things that I wanted to point out that I think is worth talking about. The 4th of July festivities that we have every year here in the town of Penfield are just an incredible opportunity for families to get together. Most of the time, it's great weather, and I know the supervisor is responsible for the weather, so we thank him for that. And it's a great time. And so, Mr. Beeden, you were telling me back at our public hearing that we do have proper funding for 4th of July festivities, including the parade and fireworks for 2015. That's correct, right? Correct. Okay. And also, we do have proper funding for our concert series. We have 3 different concerts at the Penfield Amphitheater every year. I believe there's somewhere between 12 to 16 total concerts. And we do have the funding available for those. Is that correct? Yes, we do. Okay. Bunny Brinkman is here tonight. And again, Bunny, I appreciate you being here at the budget vote, also along with our public hearing that we had a few weeks ago. So thanks for coming out. Bunny and the supervisor and Bob get together every year and go over the library's budget. And, it goes without saying what a tremendous asset the Penfield Public Library and the library system is to the Penfield residents. I think every year, attendance and membership at the library continues to grow and grow. They have a wonderful book sale every year that seems to get more and more popular, and it really is a true gem in this town. And so, Bunny, thank you for your stewardship of that. And Supervisor, thank you for your support of the programs at the library, too. Supervisor, you mentioned at the last meeting a little bit about the healthcare consortium and the savings that being a participant in that has to the town of Penfield. Can you just go into a little bit more of a brief summary of that?
Absolutely. The town joined, we were one of 6 communities that joined the healthcare consortium. We are now at 15, so we've continued to grow that. And the idea there is that we're able to better leverage our resources and get information from healthcare providers, MVP Excellus, regarding programs and opportunities to help further reduce costs. This year, we're seeing an increase of 12%. A portion of that, approximately 3.5%, is part of the affordable health care. So it's a little ironic that we have affordable health care, but we have to contribute an extra 3.5 to that to make the program work. And if it weren't for that, we would be in the single digits. However, those communities, a number of those communities that are not part of the healthcare consortium, are seeing increases anywhere from 18 to 30% for 2015, and that just is kind of a sign of the times of what's going on. So we're very fortunate to be part of that group. There are 3 really key components: manage our costs, get reliable data, and then the third component is wellness and being able to help from a demographic standpoint to make sure that we're doing all those things on preventative care for our employees and the employees of our trust and their families.
Great, thank you. I know every year I try to make an effort to reach out to some of the department heads, talk to them about the budget that they're proposing in their departments. And I would just like to mention, Penfield Community Television, Dave Renner and his team downstairs, who are responsible for these meetings being live, responsible for the town website. I mean, there's a tremendous amount of information on the Penfield website. I don't think there's any other town in Monroe County that comes close to the amount of information that's available to residents, whether it's maps, whether it's zoning board, planning board, studies, documents, calendars, library information, events going on 4th of July, rec department events. It is all there and all accessible. And so I'd like to thank Dave and his team for their efforts in these tough budget times and putting together a budget that keeps this town moving forward in our effort to increase our transparency to the residents of Penfield. Also, I did talk to Chris Bilo, our recreation director, and I continually am impressed with his leadership in that department. He's a new recreation director. There is no doubt in my mind that the recreation department today is better than it has been in the past, and I think that Chris Bilo and his staff deserves a lot of credit for that. In my conversation with Chris, he mentioned a couple statistics that I thought were just unbelievable. In 2014, they had over 1,000 recreation programs offered to Penfield residents. The DEER program, which is daytime education and recreation for our seniors, over 400 residents participated in that program. There were over 1,200 residents that participated in our senior lunch program at the community center. Roughly 3,500 people attended our amphitheater concert series, jazz music, and also our kids concerts that we do at the amphitheater here at the town hall. 900 baseball games at our Penfield athletic facility down here at Penfield Little League. Great partnership with Penfield Youth Baseball, Penfield Little League. An all-volunteer board there. They do a tremendous job, and it really is a wonderful partnership between the town and Penfield Little League. 250 soccer games were held on Penfield fields. I think that's just a lot of use and a lot of time spent in programming and logistics for all those kind of games for seniors and adult leagues. So I'd like to commend him for those efforts.
Okay. And should be noted that there is one more quarter of data to be added to that.
Got it. So it's going to be well over 1,000. Great. That's good to know. A couple other things that I just quickly wanted to talk about. Mr. Beeden, at the public hearing, you presented, and unfortunately I didn't bring it today, so I apologize. You presented a map that showed the property taxes, the total property taxes of Penfield residents, kind of broken down if you live in the Penfield School District portion of Penfield, which tends to be the northern portion of town, or the Penfield School District, which is kind of mid-Penfield going down to the southern end of Penfield. And I think that's a real telling graph that you presented on your total property tax and how it is divided among the three different taxing entities. That's the school district, the county of Monroe, and the town of Penfield. Generally speaking, your school district will be somewhere between 68 to 70% of your total property tax. Your Monroe County will be somewhere in the range of 18 to 22% of your total property tax. And your town taxes will range anywhere from 7 to 9% of your total property tax. And so when you look at that and you look at what those numbers involve, a lot of people that I talk to don't really understand or haven't really looked into what their property taxes are and who controls how much of that property tax with the individual governing boards of those municipalities. It's the school board, whether it's Webster School Board, Penfield School Board, or the Monroe County Legislature, or this board, the town of Penfield. So when you look at the Penfield property tax, or the Penfield portion of your property tax, that's the town portion, you're looking at roughly 7.3% of 100% this body up here at this dais controls. In the Webster portion of Penfield, the Webster School District, it's roughly 8.4%. So 7.3% and 8.4% is what this body controls of your entire property tax. If you look at, let's just say, a $10,000 bill for your property taxes, this body, the town of Penfield, the town board would control, roughly in the range of $730 of that $10,000 bill. If you live in the Webster School District portion of Penfield, we would control $840 of that $10,000 property tax bill. And so the longer I'm on this board and the longer we look at those numbers and analyze those numbers, it's very interesting. And I think that the residents are starting to take a look at that and see who's responsible for their property taxes and what portion of their property tax bill their elected officials control. And so I just wanted to point that out. Also, Legislator Quattro kind of talked about this a little bit earlier. And of the 19 towns in the town of Penfield, in Monroe County, Penfield has the 4th lowest town tax rate. If you look at all 19 towns, the town of Riga has no tax rate. They have no tax rate because they have the mill seat landfill in the town, which basically pays their town taxes. Then you have the town of Henrietta, and as we all know, with the astronomical amount of retail, commercial, and industrial facilities and properties in Henrietta, they have a very low property tax bill. And then the town of Perrington is number 3, just a little bit lower than the town of Penfield, and they have the High Acres landfill, which supplies, I think, close to $1 million towards their property taxes for their town taxes. And then you have Penfield at number 4. So I commend you, Mr. Supervisor, for holding that tax rate stable in the town. As Legislator Quattro mentioned earlier, the tax rate going into 2015 here in the town of Penfield will be less than it was in 2002. Some towns in Monroe County, their tax rates are as high as $6.51. Greece, for instance, is $6.31. Arundecoit is $6.51. Brighton is $5.35. And in Penfield, we're at $2.64. So significantly lower than some of the other towns. Of the 19 towns, I believe 10 towns are having property tax increases going into 2015. Penfield is not having a tax rate increase for 2015. So thank you, Mr. Supervisor, for your commitment. I did become aware, earlier in the week, the town went to go refinance some of his bonds in our cost savings initiative. And Mr. Supervisor, if you can take just a couple minutes and kind of explain that and what our actual cost savings were to taxpayers of Penfield with the refinancing of the bonds?
Absolutely. Mr. Beeden, myself, and Mr. Horwitz met with our financial consultant. We identified a number of bonds that were callable, which meant we had an opportunity to take a look at them and also take a look at the market. And what we were able to do through some preliminary work was to identify approximately about $147,000 worth of savings by calling those bonds early and getting a lower rate, not extending the term of the bonds, but getting a lower rate, thus saving the town a total of $147,000. Mr. Beeden kept his eagle eye on that, working with our consultants. And when all the dust settled out from that, we were able to actually gain 157 and change, right to the penny, right? 157.4. So we were able to get an additional $10,500 more on those callable bonds. And again, that's lower cost. It's part of our effort to look for ways to manage our cost. But we also did it in a way that did not extend the life of those bonds. So great job by Mr. Beeden, Bernie Donegan Company, Dick Horowitz, and yourself, Mr. Beeden, for coordinating that effort on behalf of the town.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. And lastly, I just kind of want to point out that earlier in the week, I read that Moody's credit rating, which did the credit rating for the town of Penfield, also did the credit rating review or analysis for one of our public improvement bonds, put out a general report. And some of the statements in the report, I think, were very complimentary towards the stewardship, the financial stewardship of this town. And so I just want to kind of point out a couple different things that this Moody's credit rating, or Moody's and investors, had to say about the public improvement bond that we currently put out. The AA2 rating reflects a well-managed and healthy finances as evidenced by strong liquidity and reserve levels, a moderately sized suburban tax base favorably located within Rochester metropolitan area, modest debt profile, and manageable net pension liabilities. Points out some of the strengths: strong fiscal management, including multi-year budget forecasting. Some of the strengths: modest debt burden. Penfield's prudent management practices will help keep the town's finances at healthy levels through the near term. Moody's also says, since 2011, town management has actively managed the budget through position control, conservative assumptions, as well as maintaining a 3-year budget forecast. So I just wanted to point that out to the town board, that came from Moody's rating and their description of the town of Penfield. So thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Other comments?
Well done, Councilman Moore. I agree with everything that he said, and a great segue to a couple of my brief comments. Certainly, we've mentioned the department heads within the town. I also would like to commend our staff, our incredible staff people. Make no mistake about it, your town tax is a very small portion of your tax bill. I encourage residents to take a look at their tax bill and the breakdown. And as Councilman Moore mentioned, you're talking 7 to 8 cents on the dollar that goes to run the town. But I think that I encourage residents to not stop at your tax bill, but take a look at the bang for the buck that you get in the town of Penfield. Take a look at the recreation programs you can enjoy, the special events, 4th of July that draws thousands of people from the entire area. Take a look at how your roads are taken care of and your sidewalks in all seasons and all hours of the day. And I think at the end of the day, you can take a look at that very small 7 to 8 cents on a dollar and see that as a resident in the town of Penfield, in comparison to other towns, you get quite a bang for your buck. But make no mistake about it as well, that this town board, our department heads, our staff, and certainly under the leadership of Supervisor LaFountain, we take that small tax very seriously, as you can see. So just because you have a smaller couple $100 is your town tax for some people from year to year, that doesn't mean that we don't take each dollar very seriously. As our friends in the state have shown us, spending money is very easy. It's cutting money that's difficult, cutting spending that's very difficult. And our department heads take that job seriously. They make very difficult decisions as we go through the budget process, along with Mr. Beeden certainly guiding them as to appropriateness of expenditures. So I wanted to commend department heads, Supervisor LaFountain, my fellow town board members for leading the charge, but also from the top down in the town of Penfield, our staff gets it and is able to work as a whole team to produce what I believe, again, is a really good bang for your buck.
Thank you.
Well said, and I agree with everything you said, and Andy, and all the information he provided. It's very important that people understand how much goes into this budget and what we represent as Penfield in the big picture of all the other towns in the county. And on that, I want to, commend the town supervisor and certainly our finance director, Bob Beeden, for all the work they put into this, to keep us apprised of what's going on, but they spend, full-time job taking care of this budget during the budget planning season, and thank you to all the different directors and so on for all the input they put in. And I just wanted to bring up, we're very transparent here, and Andy mentioned about what we have, the information that goes up on the website and so on. What goes on the website, I was looking at it today, and it astounds me how much all the questions, people submitted questions during the process or anticipated questions, and they're all listed right there under the budget. So if you had any kind of question, it's probably been answered. There would be a question then with a response under there. I mean, it's amazing all the transparency that goes on and all the work that's put into it through Bob and Tony and downstairs at PCTV and Dave Renner. He's putting all that information up for the residents to look at. So I thank you all for all that information and transparency that goes on with our budget.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Quinn.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Just briefly, my colleagues have done a wonderful job with the recap of the budget process and the importance of this resolution that we're going to pass here momentarily. And I too want to congratulate the supervisor, Bob, the department heads, as well as all staff for really doing a great job in holding the line and making sure that the town is not spending frivolously, because it's not our money, it's town taxpayers' money, and I think that's often lost in the shuffle. But I think the five of us truly understand what we are doing here as far as being stewards of the community and the financial and fiscal responsibility we have for the taxpayers in this community. I've said every year since I've been on the board that of the 200 or so resolutions we pass every year, none is more important than this one. Each year, this is the #1 priority. Everything we do in the preceding year, or the previous year, up to this point, and everything that we plan on doing in the next year stems right here from this resolution that we will pass momentarily. So again, congratulations to the supervisor, to Bob, to department heads, and I think that this is a wonderful budget resolution moving forward into 2015. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. Seeing no more comments, I would ask for a roll call vote of the 2015 town budget.
Cole?
Aye.
LaFountain?
Aye.
Metzler?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
5 ayes.
All right, Mr. Beeden, that takes care of 15. I'm going to give you a couple of days off, and we'll start in on the 2016. All right, we'll move on to our next resolution.
Authorization for supervisor to sign lease agreement with the Penfield Central School District.
Moved.
Second.
Whereas the town of Penfield and Penfield Central School District have an existing intermunicipal agreement. This agreement governs the use of district facilities by the town and the use of town facilities by the school district. The agreement has proved to be mutually beneficial to the residents in both the town and the school district. Whereas the Penfield Central School District desires to lease portions of storage space at Channing Philbrook Park from the town of Penfield. Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion? Comment on this? This gives the school district, their grounds and facilities, an opportunity to separate themselves from the bus garage, where they are very tight in space. This will bring that down to that building. The pole barn facility will be maintained, occupied by the town of Penfield, but the building itself will be utilized by the school district to give them an opportunity, a little bit of growing pains for space until such time as something different can be done for that particular group. Seeing no further discussion, I'd ask for a roll call vote, please.
Can we say something?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I apologize.
No.
You were so,
Every time something like this can't just be voted on without a conversation, because this is a moment that there's this relationship between the school district and the town working together cooperatively. We're helping them out, and it's excellent, because it's what we'd like to see. And certainly we have residents come in and ask, what is going on between the relationships of the town and school. And usually, you can always talk about the ball fields and so on, but this is something that's dealing with the garages and the DPW for the school district. So I think it's a great enterprise to have that relationship and see this go forward.
okay, Great.
Yeah, and I would just like to point out, I know that the supervisor and this town board has always had a good working relationship with the school district. I know for a fact the supervisor historically has had a regular meeting or regular meetings with Supervisor or Superintendent Carlovati, and then after him, Superintendent Grimm, and I'm sure with the new superintendent or the interim superintendent, those regular meetings will continue. So thank you, Mr. Supervisor, on behalf of the town board for continuing that dialogue in looking for ways to save monies both for the town and for the school district.
Thank you. Now, seeing no further comments, I'd ask for a roll call vote, please.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Metzler.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
5 ayes. Authorize the town controller to attend the PERMA board meeting.
Moved.
Second.
Whereas the town controller is on the board of directors for the Workers' Compensation Carrier Public Employers Risk Management Association. Whereas the PERMA board meeting will be held on October 29th, 2014, located in Latham, New York, and will be paid fully for mileage and hotel expenses by PERMA. Now be it resolved that the town controller attend the PERMA board meeting on October 29th.
Thank you. Discussion? Seeing no discussion, roll call vote, please.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Metzler.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
5 ayes. Authorizing purchase of a portion of property at 2126 5 Mile Line Road from DePrima Properties.
Moved.
Second.
Whereas the town board proposes to purchase a portion of the property at 2126 5 Mile Line Road consisting of .109 plus or minus acres for the purpose of creating a public parking facility in the southeast quadrant of the Penfield Four Corners. Whereas the town of Penfield has had an appraisal prepared by Midland Appraisal Associates to determine a fair market value of said property, that being $50,300. Whereas the property owner, DePrima Properties, has offered to sell said requested portion of the property for the same price. Now therefore be it resolved that the supervisor is hereby authorized to sign a purchase and sale contract for the purchase of a portion of 2126 5 Mile Line Road in the amount of $50,300.
Thank you. Discussion on this. I'd like to just comment. I was looking back in my records on this and as well as the next resolution. This southeast corner of the Four Corners has been an area that we started to take a look at 22 years ago. And the intent 22 years ago, working with the then property owners, was to pull together a parking area that was public parking. We have made improvements to the other particular quadrants of that Four Corners area, and this was one that kind of eluded us for a number of supervisors and boards. The only constant through this whole thing has been Bob Beeden and Jim Costello. And we have finally been able to pull this together and finally, after approximately 22 years, bring this to a closure. So great effort, especially around Mr. Costello for sticking with it and working through all the kinks to make this happen.
So would you explain what happens now that the town's going to own property there? It's going to be signage saying public parking?
That is correct. There are three pieces of property that'll come together. That'll be considered public parking for anyone for use in the Four Corners. It'll be similar to public parking that we have on the northeast corner, on the southwest corner, and access that we have on the northwest corner. So this kind of completes that whole quadrant and will help assist the merchants in that historic district of Penfield.
Well, I think you deserve a lot of congratulations, and Jim Costello and Bob Beeden as well, because that was, throughout my years, it's always been a conversation piece, and it's been something working towards fruition, but it's so many people that own these buildings and the property and trying for everybody to come together in agreement. It's been a long long obstacle that you have resolved, which is excellent, and I congratulate you for this, for the betterment of the Four Corners. It's another improvement.
Thank you. And I don't want to overlook our great town attorney, Mr. Horowitz,
Oh, I'm sure
who
you-
has
yeah.
been through thick and thin and weeded out some files that I think he's had for maybe more than 22 years for that. So thank you, Mr. Horowitz, on that. That's a good end. All right. Seeing no further discussion, I'd ask for a roll call vote, please.
Cole?
Aye.
LaFountain?
Aye.
Metzler?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
5 ayes. Authorizing purchase of a portion of property at 1825 Penfield Road from Ronald T. and Joyce Baruti.
Moved.
Second.
Whereas the town board proposes to purchase a portion of the property at 1825 Penfield Road consisting of .181 plus or minus acres to create a public parking facility. Whereas the town has had an appraisal prepared by Midland Appraisal to determine fair market value of the property, that being $10 per square foot. Whereas the owners, Ronald T. and Joyce Baruti, have offered to sell said portion of the property for $10 per square foot. Now therefore be it resolved that the supervisor is hereby authorized to sign a purchase and sale contract for the purchase of a portion of the property at 1825 Penfield Road in the amount of $79,220.
Thank you. Discussion. Again, as the previous resolution, this ties that whole quadrant together. Okay, seeing no further discussion, I'd ask for a roll call vote, please.
Cole?
Aye.
LaFountain?
Aye.
Metzler?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
5 ayes. Granting preliminary and final site plan and re-subdivision approval to allow a 9120 square foot office building at 2154 Fairport, 9 Mile Point Road.
Moved.
Second.
Whereas an application has been received by the Penfield Town Board under Local Law 2 of 2003, known as the Penfield Incentive Zoning Law, to consider the application for incentive zoning and preliminary final site plan and re-subdivision approval under Article 8-8-2 and 11-9-2, and a conditional use permit under Article 10-10-4-E of the code to allow a 9,120 square foot office building on 1.45 acres at 2154 Fairport, 9 Mile Point Road. Whereas the Town Board of the Town of Penfield held a public hearing at the Penfield Town Hall on September 17, 2014, to hear said application, to hear all persons interested in this final site plan re-subdivision approval. Be it resolved that the Town Board acted as lead agency within the meaning of the State Environmental Quality Review Act, or SEQR, and did designate itself as lead agency pursuant to SEQR. The requirements for SEQR for overall development concept for the site were met and satisfied in the findings adopted in Resolution 159 of June 21st, 2006. Be it further resolved that the applicant's request for planning and final site plan and re-subdivision approval to allow a 9,120 square foot facility at 2154 Fairport, 9 Mile Point Road is hereby granted, subject to the following conditions. And I'd just like to point out, Mr. Supervisor, that the conditions are standard for the conditions of development in that basically that plaza on Route 250.
Thank you. Discussion. See no discussion, I'd ask for a roll call vote, please.
Cole?
Aye.
LaFountain?
Aye.
Metzler?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
5 ayes. Granting modifications to the incentive zoning application and preliminary and final re-subdivision and site plan approval at 56, 63, 67, and 71 Kings Mill Court in Wyndham Woods subdivision, Section 2, Phase B.
Moved.
Second.
Whereas an application has been received by the Penfield Town Board under Local Law 2 of 2003, known as the Town of Penfield Incentive Zoning Law, to consider preliminary and final re-subdivision and site plan approval to allow the re-subdivision of lots 213, 214, 215, and 216 within the Wyndham Woods subdivision. Whereas the Penfield Town Board is best suited to act as lead agency within the meaning of the State Environmental Quality Review Act, or SEQR. Whereas the Town Board of the Town of Penfield held a public hearing at the Penfield Town Hall on October 1st, 2014 to consider said application and to hear all persons on the question of consideration of said application. Now therefore be it resolved that the applicant's request to be granted subject to the following conditions. And again, Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to point out, this was thoroughly vetted in the public hearing, and the conditions are consistent with the development in that portion of Penfield.
Thank you. Discussion. Seeing no discussion, I'll ask for a roll call vote, please.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Metzler.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
5 ayes. Granting incentive zoning for re-subdivision approval and preliminary overall site plan approval to allow 3 structures totaling 15,080 square feet, and final site plan approval to allow the proposed 6,000 square foot structure at 2146 and 2152 Fairport 9 Mile Point Road.
Moved.
Second.
Whereas an application has been received by the Penfield Town Board under Local Law 2 of 2003, known as the Penfield Zoning Law or Incentive Zoning Law, to consider the application for incentive zoning and preliminary and final re-subdivision approval for the development of 3 structures of 4,080, 5,000, and 6,000 square feet, totaling 15,080 square feet on 2.1 acres. The property located in the business non-retail zoning district at 2146 and 2152 Fairport 9 Mile Point Road. Whereas the town board is best suited to act as lead agency within the meaning of the State Environmental Quality Review Act, known as SEQR. Now therefore be it resolved that the applicant's request for incentive zoning, preliminary and final re-subdivision approval for the development of the 3 structures totaling 15,080 square feet on 2.1 acres be granted, subject to the following conditions. And again, Mr. Supervisor, the conditions are consistent with other conditions to satisfactorily build those structures on that plaza off of Route 250 across from Target.
Thank you. Further discussion.
Just to point out for anyone that's interested listening, that the applicant has acquired 2 tenants for 2 of the structures, and then one is the AT&T and service store and a Chipotle Mexican grill.
Okay. Very good. We see some young people in the audience that apparently like Chipotle. So hoo-hoo, that's all good. So if they like that, they're going to probably like the next resolution equally as well. So with that, and seeing no further discussion, I'll ask for a roll call vote, please.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Metzler.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
5 ayes. Granting conditional use permit and preliminary and final re-subdivision and site plan approval to allow the demolition of the structures at 2107 and 2111 5 Mile Line Road to permit the construction of a 3490 square foot structure for a Mark's Pizzeria at 2107 and 2111 5 Mile Line Road with outdoor dining at 1816 Penfield Road.
Moved.
Second.
Whereas an application has been received by the Penfield Town Board for the issuance of a conditional use permit and preliminary and final re-subdivision and site plan approval pursuant to Articles 3-3-97, 8-8-2, and 9-9-2 of the code to allow for the demolition of the structure at 2107 and 2111 5 Mile Line Road to permit the construction of a 3,490 square foot structure for Mark's Pizzeria at 2107 and 2111 5 Mile Line Road with an outdoor dining at 1816 Penfield Road located in the Four Corners zoning district. Now therefore be it resolved that the applicant's request for the issuance of the conditional use permit be approved with outdoor dining is hereby granted, subject to the following conditions. And Mr. Supervisor, I just would like to point out that this particular matter has been thoroughly vetted, I think more than thoroughly vetted, at work session meetings, multiple work session meetings, and is consistent with the Four Corners zoning district and should be approved. Thank you.
Okay. Discussion.
I have a few comments regarding this resolution. I enthusiastically seconded this. I echo Councilman Moore, there has been a tremendous amount of work done by Jim Costello here in the town, as well as the applicant Mark Crane, property owner, longtime property owner in the Four Corners. He's won awards for his vision and his development of the Four Corners area. So we're certainly, I'm excited about this new venture for a new and improved, bigger Mark's Pizzeria that will be architecturally and materials-wise consistent with the historic flair of the Four Corners. Mark took that into considerable consideration. Also unique, I think, is a venture between Mark's Pizzeria and the town with respect to fully utilizing Shuffleburger Park for an outdoor dining experience, enabling Mark's Pizzeria, but also other customers in the area, other patrons of other businesses in the area to enjoy their coffee or their frozen yogurt, or to just sit and relax in Shuffleburger Park and get more use out of that park by the town being creative along with the property owner with respect to a courtyard-type atmosphere that everybody can enjoy. In terms of fully vetting, this is probably the application that I have in my tenure as liaison to the Historic Preservation Board, the application that I have seen the most input and most involvement and discussion by our very dedicated Historic Preservation Board. We have a group of residents with expertise in architecture, small business owners, people with long history in the town in terms of development and seeing the town grow. And I was very encouraged and proud of our Historic Preservation Board as they took a step back and really worked with the applicant, and the applicant worked with them, as well as with Jim Costello, to produce the best planned product that they could. And the applicant is to be commended, Mark Crane, for his willingness to take suggestions and to, to invest more in some ways with respect to this project. So it's another exciting improvement, another addition, so to speak, to the Four Corners. We're seeing lots of that since Supervisor LaFountain came on board. And so I'm encouraged by another eating establishment that continues to grow in our Four Corners.
Great comments, thank you. Yep, correct.
I was just going to say, Mr. Supervisor, that, all too often we have developers or other applicants come before the board, whether it be a public hearing or a work session, and they have their vision of what they want to build in Penfield, and not always does it match up with either codes or maybe perhaps the vision of the town board. But I do want to thank Mark Crane for his willingness to go above and beyond when it came to working with this town board, with the Historic Preservation Board, as far as really putting together a good blueprint, a good vision for that corner. That's a very high-profile intersection in town. It's within walking distance of many residents and schools and other businesses, and he really wanted to hit a home run, and I think that he has with having an enlarged Mark's Pizzeria there, but also the openness to the outside eatery and the ability to work with the other business owners to welcome in other patrons to Mark's. So I want to thank him for that. I also want to thank the franchisee or the gentleman who runs the shop over there, Kevin Burke, class of '98 from Penfield. So I wish him well. That's my class as well. So as they begin this new venture together here in the Four Corners. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm just going to add, for those that are watching, those that are here, don't worry, Mark's is not going to close. They're going to do it in a staged effort. The building next to Mark's will be torn down probably within the next month. In the spring, they'll start to build the new Mark's. And what will happen is that the current Mark's will serve its last pizza on an evening, and then the next day, they'll start operating in the new building. So there will be no break in service, and his commitment was to make sure that his patrons and his customers didn't see a break in service. So looking forward to that modification as we head into 2014, 2015.
And all the high school students who are watching this instead of doing their homework, because we know they're all watching us.
Or participation in government.
They now know that they will not have a break in their pizza eating after school.
Perfect. All right. Seeing no more comments, I'll ask for a roll call vote, please.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Metzler.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
5 ayes. Authorization for supervisor to sign and submit Justice Court Assistance Program grant application.
Moved.
Second.
Whereas the Town of Penfield Justice Court Department wishes to apply for a Justice Court Assistance Program grant to upgrade town justice courts. Now therefore be it resolved that the town supervisor is hereby authorized to sign a grant application for the State Justice Court Assistance Program for upgrades to the Penfield courts in an amount not to exceed $30,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion?
I would
This-
ju-
Go ahead.
I would just like to commend our Judge Mully, who in the past has been instrumental in securing these dollars for much-needed upgrades to our town court facilities. And he certainly has his finger on the pulse of the availability of those funds, being a part of the court system himself by day. And I was honored to work with him in the court system and certainly know that he's got the background and the knowledge to seek out appropriate funding, and he also knows certainly what is needed to have an efficient and modernized court. So I commend him for, I'm assuming he's going to be seeking and doing such a great job again to seek out this funding that is well-deserved and much needed.
Thank you. And my comment was going to follow Judge Mully's interest in baseball, and it's that time of the season. Judge Mully is 2 for 2 with grant applications. This is his third opportunity, so we hope that when the dust settles out here at the end of the year, he is 3 for 3. And that will go right into, I think, his a fan of being the San Francisco Giants. All right, seeing no further discussion, look for a roll call vote, please.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Metzler.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
5 ayes. Authorization for supervisor to sign an intermunicipal agreement with Monroe County for the Stormwater Coalition of Monroe County.
Moved.
Second.
Whereas the town of Penfield has been a member of the Stormwater Coalition of Monroe County since its inception in 2000, and whereas the Stormwater Coalition provides assistance to the town of Penfield with their compliance of the Clean Water Act, the town board has determined it is in the best interest of the town and its residents to continue its participation in the Stormwater Coalition. The town attorney has also reviewed the intermunicipal agreement and approves the execution of the agreement. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board authorizes the town supervisor to sign the intermunicipal agreement with Monroe County to continue participation in the Stormwater Coalition of Monroe County.
Thank you. Discussion? Seeing no discussion, roll call vote, please.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Metzler.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
5 ayes. Advertise for bids to maintain, clean up, and secure properties as required under Article 4-4-28 and Article 12-12-21 of Chapter 29 of the Town Code.
Moved.
Second.
Whereas the purpose of Article 4-4-28 and Article 12-12-21 of Chapter 29 of the Town Code is to prevent the gradual encroachment of blight, deterioration, unsightliness, and property devaluation, and to assure the safety, health, protection, and general welfare of persons and property in the town of Penfield. And whereas the Building and Zoning Office has the need to maintain or secure properties failing to comply with the minimum requirement of Article 4-4-28 and Article 12-12-21 of Chapter 29 of the Town Code. Now therefore be it resolved that the Building and Zoning Administrator be, and hereby is authorized to advertise in a manner prescribed by law for sealed proposals for the maintenance, cleanup, and securing of properties that have failed to be maintained in accordance with the Town Code requirements. And be it further resolved that the services covered by such proposals shall be in accordance with the specifications prepared by the Building and Zoning Administrator. Sealed proposals are to be received in the office of the Town Clerk until 11:00 a.m. local time Friday, November 7th, 2014, and there and then are to be opened by the Town Clerk. Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion? Seeing no discussion, roll call vote, please.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Metzler.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
5 ayes. Authorization for supervisor to sign recreation contracts.
So moved.
Second.
This authorizes the town supervisor to sign 4 recreation contracts. There, 2 of them are for sports and one's for judo program, and one's for the director of the Pops Band.
Okay, thank you. Discussion? Seeing none, I'd ask for a roll call vote, please.
Cole?
Aye.
LaFountain?
Aye.
Metzler?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye.
Quinn?
Aye.
5 ayes.
Thank you. This brings us to old business. Any old business to come before the board this evening? Seeing none. Any new business? Again, seeing none. This is our second opportunity for public participation. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the board on any matter? Okay, seeing none. The meeting of October 15th, 2014 is officially adjourned. Thank you very much to Penfield TV, those that participated. The meeting is officially adjourned at 9:01 p.m. Thank you.